Protocols are a big part of the iOS ecosystem. They're used extensively within the APIs. They form an important communication channel between classes. And to really be a good iOS developer, you've got to understand how these things work. In this episode, we're going to take a look at what protocols are, how they work, and I've got a nice simple example which will show you how to pass data from one model view controller to another. So let's take a look at how this works. Right now I'm in Xcode here, and I've got my model view controller hooked up. And as you can see right now, as I'm picking dates here, you can see them coming out in the output here. When I go back to the original model view controller, I'm not updating this label, which is really what I want to do. So let's see how we can set up a protocol to pass data from our selection here and update this label here. So we're going to start by going to the view controller for this date picker here. This is a class called datePickerViewController, and it's here where I'm going to define my protocol. Defining a protocol really takes part in two steps. First, you have to define the protocol itself, and then you create a property for that delegate that others can register for, like this. So what this is saying is, in our datePickerViewController, we're defining an interface or a protocol called the datePickerDelegate, which has one method in it called didPickDateWithSelectedDate. This is the method that we're going to have someone else implement so we can actually call them when this thing happens. And the way we let them register themselves or connect to us is we define a property for our delegate, and as we'll see shortly, this is how people can register for themselves, by basically signing themselves as the value of this delegate. Now just a couple of things to note here. One, this says ID here. That just means that this could be any type of object class coming at us, but we're just constraining it to this type called datePickerDelegate. That's just how these properties work with protocols. And secondly, notice that right here, I've made the property weak. We're okay using weak here because what we assume is that whoever's going to be registering for us is actually going to outlive us or live a lot longer than we are. So a weak reference here is okay. We don't actually need strong. Now if we flip to the implementation side of our view controller here, we can verify we do have our delegate set up here. That's synthesized okay. And here is where we actually make the call to whoever has registered themselves as our delegate. So this is an IB action that's been set up. So when someone picks a date on our date picker, this method is going to be called. And when we do call it, we're going to log what date was picked, but we're also going to call our delegate and fire this method, passing in the date that we received. This is the line here, which is going to pass data from this view controller to our other one. All right, now let's go look at the other side and see how we can register ourselves to pick up things going on over here. So first we're going to go into our view controller. And it's in here, it's in the implementation that first of all, we are going to tell our class here that we actually implement the date picker interface or delegate here. This is basically us saying, hey, we implement this interface so you can actually send messages to us and we'll be able to handle them. Now you'll know we have a bit of a warning sign here. And that's because while we're implementing this protocol, we're not meeting the requirements yet. We don't have a method for that didPickDateWithSelectedDate method, so we have to add that. So I'm going to add a method that does that here. Here we are implementing, this is our implementation of didPickDateWithSelectedDate. Here we're just going to take the selected date that was passed in, create a date formatter of this type so we can format the date, and then set that formatted date string to the text of our date label. Now we're almost there. We're just missing one thing, and that is how do we register ourselves to be the delegate? Well, one place we can do this is in our prepareForSegue method. Here, right before we transition to that other view controller, we can say, hey, if the segue we're looking at is of type dateSegue, then get the segue view controller, which we know is going to be a date picker view controller, and set ourselves up as the delegate. This is the line here that registers ourselves to be the delegate of our date view controller. Now there's one important thing I just need to show you, and that's where did this string come from, dateSegue. This came from our storyboard. If we go look at this segue here, from this view controller to this one, you can see it has an identifier here called date segue. That string has to match this one over here. That's how we know we're segueing to the right place. Technically, in this example, we could have gotten away without doing this check, but if you're segueing to more than one place from more than one view controller, this is how you basically figure out where you're going so you can set yourselves up appropriately. And now with that, I should be able to hit run, go to my date picker, go pick something from my date picker here, and when I come back, voila, I should see the label updated. So there you have it. That's protocols in a nutshell. They're not too complicated. They're a powerful way and a good mechanism for passing data from one view controller to another, and you're going to see them everywhere in iOS. So don't be worried, don't be afraid of them. They're really, really key. They're fun to use, and they work really well. All right, that's it for this episode. Hope that helps. Take care. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.